everyone. Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. I am Megan Price and I have Candy Ebling next to me. How's your week going, Candy?
It's going great. How are you, Megan? We've missed you. It's been for a
Yes,
while.
it has been a few weeks. I've been really busy with the baseball team that I work for. Last week we played the Tulsa Drillers, which is the AA team for the Dodgers. Got a chance to see some of their top prospects that are coming up through their farm system, and then obviously we're the AA for the Diamondbacks. So getting to see a lot of them. We've had a lot of movement because I don't know if you saw John Shearer's post, but he was talking about there's only 12, 11 teams that are above 500 in the MLB this year. And so they are one of the teams that are kind of going through some things, as are my Rangers. And there's been a lot of movement in minor league ball because they're trying to make adjustments and they're trying to fix their major league teams. So it's been hectic.
There's been a lot of injuries too. And so when there's injuries,
Right.
people don't know that they rehab down in the minors too.
Right, absolutely. So like we've had here in Amarillo, we've had Tatis Jr. here before. Whenever we first started, we were a part of the Padres, and then like a year or two later, we went to the Diamondbacks. So we've had some really big stars here. We've had Jordan Waddler got his start here. Corbin Carroll got his start here, and then last year I got to see Wyatt Langford while he was a part of the AA team for the Rangers. So got to see him here. We get a chance to do that. But so like on the production side of things, when that happens, when people move, like we play walk-up music, we play walk-up videos every time they do, and you have to create media files for them because they're very personalized, and it's a lot of work, especially when they start calling people up,
And it's quick. It's quick. Like
it is
I
very quick. They went on a 2-week road trip and called up 4 guys. So when
Mhm.
they came back, I was like, that's a third of the team that's gone.
And when they call them up, they put them in like that same day. Like if they call up a
Right,
pitcher, it's like, oh, you're pitching today too, by the way.
right. Oh, and what's crazy is they can do it in the middle of a game. Like
Mhm.
you can get the call up in the middle of the game and you got to leave. You got to go right then. So, sometimes they're walking off, and we've had some injuries with our umpires this year too. So, there's been some interesting changes in minor league ball. At the AAA level, they are doing the electronic or the digital umpire system, and I think that that's going to be something that we actually see on the major league level probably sooner rather than later. I don't think they'll completely do away with umpires, but I think behind the plate, the umpires are probably going to go away. Not only just for safety, because we've seen the catchers and the umpires all have been taking injuries this year, along with everyone else too.
Of course, yes.
And everybody has a camera, and we're all critics and we're all couch coaches. We're all coaching from our couch and from our phones. And to be an umpire now, it's or an official now. I imagine the pressure is incredibly hard.
It is, especially with digital cameras, and like when you're watching
Right.
on TV, they show you the box that it was in, and oh,
Right.
that
And
should have
that.
been, but the umpire doesn't have that viewpoint,
Right.
like, that
Well, and the,
to
and
be
the
able to look
ball's
at.
coming at them 100 miles an hour, so it happens so quick. They don't necessarily. There is room for human error, clearly, because Angel Hernandez exists, but thank goodness he's not in the league anymore.
Well, and it also depends on how good your catcher is, because the catcher can
True.
quick move it, and you don't. And the umpire is like, okay, well, where did it really come in, or where did the glove
Right.
stop? Because you just don't know. So depending on the catcher, you can be really good and frame it and make it look better than maybe what it really was too.
Absolutely. So framing the pitch is going to change a lot because of this as well. So we're going to continue to see changes, but the viewership and the fans and all of that has gone up since a lot of these rule changes. So I expect these will continue on, and they will just keep progressing with it.
I have to admit, I do like the faster game. I do like the
I
fact
do
that
too.
when I go, I can always guarantee the game probably will not last past 3 hours, and sometimes
Right.
it's between two and a half, and I'm like, well, that's kind
Very,
of
very easily. Now, sometimes there was a game last week. Oh my gosh, it took us almost an hour to get out of an inning. We were struggling, and it was tough. It was really tough. It was like the second or third inning, and we spent like an hour there. I was like, oh my god. This feels like the old games, where it was like four and a
Yes.
half hours for a baseball game, and that's not the case anymore. But so we had some news over the last week, not baseball but softball. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, sorry here, Megan, because I know you're Texas Longhorns, but Oklahoma softball won their fourth straight national title last week in Oklahoma City. They were the first ever four-peat in college softball history. Their senior class has never not been in the Women's College World Series and never walked away without a win. It was a
It's
best of
crazy.
three finals with the Texas Longhorns, and it was the most watched in the history of the event. It drew 1.9 million viewers for game one, 2 million viewers for the clinching game two. Game one was the largest audience on record, and the finals series was up 24% from last year and surpassed 2015's Florida Michigan series to set a new record. So now the
It's really
question
up. Right.
is
Go
is
ahead.
that going to carry over? Is that going to carry over into professional or not?
So the professional league that I've seen, which is in Oklahoma, they have a team there, and it's mainly in that region. There's about six teams, I think, six, eight teams,
Mhm.
something like that. And I really hope that that carries over. Um, I have a couple of nieces that play softball, and they're very competitive at it, like travel softball. So I
Mhm.
think it has become just a lot more popular, and hopefully that does transition to that. But in order for that to transition, they have to make the viewership available not only on TV but online as well. Make it easily accessible, because we've seen what has happened in the W when you don't make it accessible for the fans. That what can happen with that. Like you got to make it accessible if you want it to succeed.
Well, and let's be honest. Like right now here, and I don't know if you know this, but down here in Florida, Bally Sports Florida is no longer on our cable. It's no
Right.
longer on Xfinity.
Right.
So to see Marlins games, the only way you can do it is if you stream, if you
Right.
have cable. So yeah. So I mean, there are definitely cause for and a reason to get streaming and start making everything available so everybody can see it.
Who would have thought that the WNBA was going to be ahead of their time when it came to that? Because I feel like they have been where you've had to, and they did what they had to. It wasn't. I don't think it was by choice that they did it that way, but they had to make it available for other ways for people to get viewership because it was obvious that they weren't going to get primetime slots on ESPN. They weren't going to get the primetime slots on ABC. Some, but not the entire season. And
Mhm.
so they had to make. Not only did they do League Pass, but they had to make viewership available on Ion and on Prime. And now we see all the other sports are doing that too. Like you actually, in order to watch the NFL, you got to have YouTube, you got to have Prime, you got to have NFL Network, and then you got Fox and
Peacock
ESPN.
and yeah.
Right. So the W was doing that before basically pretty much everybody else. And it wasn't like I said. I don't think it was to get ahead of the game. I think they did what they had to do.
I agree. I
So, but
agree.
as far as Oklahoma, just as a Texas fan, it's heartbreaking. Gosh, out of those four championships that they got back to back, I think they played us three times out of that, and it's just like every single year they're like, "Oh yeah, you advanced to the World Series. Yeah, to play the Yankees is what it feels like."
hmm
They're
I
so
mean,
good. And you can't take anything away from them. Looking forward to the going to the SEC conference realignments is going to be something that I'm sure that we talk about when we get a little closer to football season, and probably once the Pac-12 is all the way over. So the Pac-12 is done with their baseball tournament, but once all NCAA sports wrap up, that's when we'll probably start talking about conference realignments. So now the guys are also having their super regionals. NC State beat University of Georgia today. Both of them one seeds. NC State wins 8-5, or that was
hmm
yesterday. Excuse me.
mm-hmm.
So make sure you guys are keeping up with that as well. But we also have a couple of other series that are going on right now, some finals as well. We got the NHL finals and we have the NBA finals going on. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Why don't we start with NHL?
Okay.
I mean, because then we'll do the basketball and we'll get into the WNBA and we can segue into the basketballs. But
Absolutely. Sounds
NHL,
good.
people, some people say the Stanley Cup is the hardest championship to win. And I'm not going to argue, we're not going to debate that tonight. But this year, I could say, if you're going to say that of any year, this year you got to say it because this is the furthest distance the two teams that are in the finals have ever been. There is
Right.
2,541 miles between these two teams, which is a 10-hour flight. And
Wow.
now, yeah, and now the championship is 2-2-1-1-1, and so they played the two down here in Florida. And I can
Right.
attest because last night was game 2 and traffic
Right.
was horrible around
Right. I can
before
imagine.
that. So, but
For this series, I actually feel like this is the one we're going to get the most excitement out of. And I know I've already seen a lot of people saying that, oh, the Stanley Cup Finals is over, just how dominant Florida has started, and they have started extremely dominant. And a stat that we were talking about on the radio show today was that whoever goes up 2 games or they win the first 2 games, they win the series 39 out or 39-3. So like that's out of that many times, that's how many times they actually win it. So I'm still gonna. I had Florida. I picked them to win, but I think it goes to Game 7. Like I think they go to Edmonton, and the fact that the Canadian fans haven't had the Stanley Cup Finals there in so long, I think they get a resurgence. They go back home, they get a resurgence. And I think they win those 2 games at home, and then when they start coming back, that's when we see the home ice advantage.
I think so too. I also do know that they're still evaluating Barkow because he went down. He was hit high with it was just a 2-minute penalty on Edmonton, but he did go down and he stayed out for the remaining of the game, which was like 9 minutes and some change left in the third. And he did not come back, and they are still evaluating him as of today, last I had heard. So um, I've just been really kind of surprised by the difference in the amount of shots taken because
Right.
Florida is just shooting it left and right. And kudos to both goalies because Sergei Bobrovsky has stopped everything but one. He's only allowed
Wow.
one, so like that's just crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So
it's
last night's game was 4-1. The opening game was 3-0. Like you said, has only allowed one goal so far, and that makes a huge difference. Like this is one of those sports where one particular person that stands out is going to be your goalie, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters how good you are on the shot, but if your goalie's letting them go past you, then it's
mhm.
your goalie that you got to really count on like that. So we also have the NBA finals going on at the same time. We will be going to Game 3 tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern. They will be in Dallas for this one, but we got some news today about Kristaps Porzingis, and so he has suffered a rare injury. Um, he has a torn, and I can't say all these, torn medial Britannicum in his left leg. So just a really rare injury. I mean, it's in his calf, and his calf strain is why he was out to begin with. So I know, and he's on day to day right now. I don't know that we see him again during this series.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, but
I
there's
think
they're giving shots to um uh Donick for pain killing injections for his chest injury too.
Hmm, okay.
So I mean Luca is that's just crazy that both such key players are with some injuries. That's always will make people
Do we feel
question.
like this season there was more injuries this season, maybe, and even in the postseason than what we've seen before? That might be something I want to look at because it does seem like the playoffs this year was not a matter of which team was better, but who was depleted and who was
Who's the
least
healthiest?
depleted. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I agree. I'm almost questioning that in almost all the sports. And I don't know
Hmm.
if it's because the big stars we think of and but you look at the NFL, how many of the NFL players went down? You look at
Right.
now
Yeah.
the NBA, how many of those going? And in
MLB.
baseball, we were just talking
Right.
about
Yeah.
how many,
I saw a quote that Paige Beckers put out a couple of months ago, and she was talking about that she wished she would have played multiple sports for longer. Because when you specialize in something, no different than like carpal tunnel syndrome. When you're doing repetitive motions over and over, you become more susceptible to injury. And so,
Yes.
whenever you play multiple sports, you use your muscles different, your range of motions are different, and it usually
Hmm.
keeps you healthier longer. So obviously, once you start getting closer to college and you're like, okay, senior, junior, senior year of high school, you're like, hey, I'm going to specialize in this because that's what's direction is going to take me to college. That makes sense. But when you're 10 years old, maybe you should be playing more than basketball or just
Yes.
football, or like you should
Yes.
have a larger range of motions while your body is developing.
I completely agree with that. And I think that is part of the reason why we're seeing so many, like Yuri Perez, his rookie year was last year and he's already Tommy John surgery this year. Like
Right,
that's
yeah.
just, I think part of it is they get too specialized too soon.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And then so for the Boston and Dallas series, they are going back to Dallas tomorrow. And I think this is, especially with this injury, I think that they get a little bit of their momentum back. I was thinking that it was going to be a gentleman's sweep because um, it looked like Dallas was out of steam in those first two games. But with this injury, I think that that's something that they come back and they probably capitalize off of that. I don't know if they win the series, but I think they can grab a couple of wins now because I think
Hmm.
Boston's going to be a little shaken. Look at how important Porzingis was in Game One. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
he was so important in that game and the energy that he had, and of course the first half was insane for Kristaps. So, um, I think that will hurt their momentum some, and it'll affect their shooting. Now, I will give a shout out to Derek White though for Boston, former Spurs. So of course, I'm going to shout him out. He has developed so much on the defensive side of the ball. He's always been a great guard as far as being able to see the play and spread the floor, and also had a great shooting percentage as well. But defense was kind of where he lacked, and I don't know that I saw it in the regular season, but once the postseason hit, it was Derek White was locking people down, and they finally figured out how to slow down that two-headed shooting monster of that duo there in Dallas.
Hmm. I wonder if part of it is Drew Holiday and his
Right,
influence,
right. I could see that
because
because you expect that type of defense from Drew Holiday,
right.
and to have him this whole year, maybe he has been mentoring or at least just kind of getting people to step up at that level because he really brings it on the defensive side. He's a elite defender.
He is, and maybe people are watching him too because they know he's the defensive player and on their team,
Right.
and really like be able to mold themselves. Okay, what is he doing differently that I'm not doing that I could maybe step my game up?
Or even to the point of like with what Dallas does with their shooting, you can guard Luca and then Kyrie will go off. You can guard Kyrie and then Luca will go off. Well, maybe it's the same thing on the defensive end of the ball for Boston too, because if you know Drew Holiday is going to be that elite defender, maybe you stay away from him. But oh, here comes Derek White.
Right?
So it's been a lot of. I thought they've been really well coached in this series as well. So especially that second game.
I agree. I agree.
All right. Well, let's slide over to WNBA. We've had so much going on this week. The Team USA rosters were announced. I think the biggest question marks we got three ladies that made the roster that there are some question marks about. Chelsea Gray made the roster and she hasn't played since the finals. Game 4, I believe, last October. So she hasn't played. I am under the impression that it's not the same injury. It's the same leg, but it's not the same injury that she had because it's only listed as a leg.
Hmm.
And in the finals, it was listed as foot, and they're being very discreet about it. I'm not sure if that is because of the W or if that's because Team USA or if it's maybe a combination of both. They work well together, and the W wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Team USA, and so I don't know what their mind frame is as far as disclosing the injury, but it is said that we will see Chelsea Gray before the Olympic break. Personally, I think Vegas is fine. They have dropped some games in this in the regular season, and I
Mhm.
think once they come back from their Olympic break, I think Vegas will be just fine. Be very similar to when Chicago won their championship 3 seasons ago. When they went into the postseason, they were a 500 team, and just right magically everybody got healthy right there at the end of the season, and they went into that postseason and dominated. And I think that that's something that Vegas is absolutely set up to do. Now,
Mhm.
so, there's been some question marks because as far as CC not making the roster, there's been quite a few people talking about it, not just her fans, but, WNBA stars. We've seen Lisa Leslie say a few things. We've seen a few others say a few things. DT's probably past her prime, But I will say this: if I had the opportunity to have the most gold medals on the international level, man or woman, I think I would probably do that. And if she wins gold this year, she has the most out of anybody. So, if I can't blame her for doing that. But once she gets that, it's time to let it go. There's been a few question marks about BG too because she's only been back for 2 games, and I don't think that we win the gold the last time that we played in Tokyo. I don't think we win that without BG. I've seen some other people say that there are better bigs in the game right now. I disagree. I think BG is definitely the top of that. Now, you do have some bigs that are good. You got Tiara McCowan, you've got Kalani Brown on the wings. They're good, but they're not putting up numbers like BG. So I definitely think that she was the right person for that. Now, how she injured her foot, there's all kinds of rumors about that, about how she injured her foot. Some say it was horseplay, and I think that's kind of funny. you know, they're athletes are human beings, y'all.
Right.
Mistakes are made.
Oh
Mistakes
yeah.
are made.
Mhm.
And then also we saw one of their coaches today say that they were not there to construct the team for the viewers. They were there to construct the team for wins. The Olympics has never really needed help with viewership, y'all. They're fine. Now we love the exposure that CC brings to the game, and I don't want
Mhm.
to misinterpret that. I think she's brought a lot of attention to the game, and of course that's appreciated. But it's off the back of hard work of a lot of other people before her, and she has said that. So I definitely think that the exposure that the league gets from CC, awesome. But y'all, it's not a snub. It can't be a snub. It's her first year in the league.
Right.
That's not a snub. A snub is Arike Agumbawale, somebody who's number 2 in scoring right now. She's averaging 26.6 points a game. She's averaging 3.5 steals a game. Like that's a snub. And I think what
Mhm.
would fix this is if they would construct their 5-on-5 team or their roster first, and then you'll see who doesn't make it, and that's how you make your 3-on-3 roster. So I wish they would reverse them how they construct the team. Construct your 5-on-5 team first, then construct your 3-on-3.
Mhm. I agree. I
What
agree.
what has been your thoughts about the W season this year so far?
I'll be honest with you, Megan. I haven't watched much of it. I, you know, I mean, let's
It
face it.
happens,
I'm a Florida girl, so I've been,
right?
kind of with the Panthers and watching them, and I've been
Right,
covering some baseball. So like I've gone to some Marlins games. I saw, them play. They're not playing at the level that we all want them to be playing, but I've
right,
seen them play in Detroit. We were here down here. Texas was down here. We saw them
right,
play them. We saw them play the Guardians, who we haven't seen them play in a long time. Which is kind
right.
of cool. I really like this interleague play and being able to see some of the teams that you don't always see. Um, but I'm
I do.
I'm
I
happy,
like that too. I
you
wish y'all
know.
would take. I wish they would take the Astros back to the National League. That would be
I hear you. I hear you.
they were never our biggest rival. Like they weren't even on our radar really because they were in the National League for so long. And so when they came in the early 2000s, when they came to the American League, and of course that means they come to our division. It's just been a hated rivalry ever since. So,
Mm-hmm. I
and but we're both not doing great this year, so I don't even really have a whole lot to say about the Rangers.
no, no. I mean,
once again,
I,
once again, health is a problem.
yes, Yes. I mean, I can say my Brewers are doing pretty good. Knock on wood, though. Let's keep it up because they've
Right.
actually been playing pretty good ball, and it's not with a lot of the big name people. But the one thing I will notice say is that I've noticed the Brewers this year, right now, have three starters that are batting over 300. And now I
Wow.
went to the Marlins game on Saturday, and we didn't have any batters that were batting over 260. And I'm like, it makes a big difference.
Right. Oh, yeah. It does make a big difference. Hitting has been an issue for the Diamondbacks as well. That's why they called up several of our guys because we had the best batting average for someone in Double A ball for the month of April that was on our team, and they were like, "Whoop, we'll take him."
Mhm.
Davison De Los Santos. We miss you here in Amarillo, man, but wish you the best. He is in Reno right now, and I don't think he'll be in Reno very long. I think he'll be called up to Arizona sooner than later.
I know the Marlins have called up a number of different players, especially recently on Sunday when we were there. Edwards was making his third start, I think, at shortstop, and Dane Myers came in, and he's played what half a year now. Um, so yeah, they've called up a lot of different players because there's been a lot of different injuries all around. Like we said
Right.
earlier, it's just been crazy.
Does seem like a year in sports where the injuries have been to the numbers have been huge. So for the getting back to the WNBA, Connecticut Sun sitting at number one. They were undefeated until this past Saturday. They lost to New York, 82-75. So still a really close game. The Connecticut Sun plays a type of basketball, and somebody brought this up in my space on Sunday, and I have to agree with it. They said it's ugly ball, but it's slow ball. They slow it down a lot. It's very similar to what Popovich will do there in San Antonio. He plays system ball. He slows it down, plays really aggressive defense, full court press, and it's not
Mhm.
the most fun to watch, but they
Mhm.
win a lot of ball games that way. They are sitting at number one in the Eastern Conference. At number two, you got the Liberty. They are 11-2. Then you've got the Dream. They are 5-4. The Sky, and this is the Eastern Conference. The Sky are 4-6. The Fever are 3-10, and the Mystics are still winless. They are 0-2. In the Western Conference, we got the Minnesota Lynx at number one. They are 8-3. Then you got the Seattle Storm. They are 7-4. Vegas Aces at number three in the West. They are 5-4. Then you got the Mercury, who are 6-6. The Sparks, who are 4-7, and then the Wings are the worst in the West, 3-7, struggling with health. We are out Satu Sabali, who is the reigning and defending MIP right now, and we're out a couple other ladies. So health has been an issue. Hopefully, we see those ladies come back. I don't think we see Satu before the Olympic break, but I do think that she had surgery in February. But I do think we see Natasha Howard come back probably 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay, good.
So she broke her foot in game one. They said 3 to 6 weeks.
3 to 6.
Luckily, I think, yeah, luckily, I think it was a break instead of a fracture because a fracture actually takes longer to heal. And so the way they described it, broken foot, that's how it was listed. So hopefully it was a clean break and we see her back within a week or two, is kind of what it's looking like.
Wow, that's crazy.
All right. Well, just wanted to thank everybody for coming in and watching today. We've had quite a crowd. I think that does it for us this week. If y'all have any topics that y'all want to talk about, was there anything else you wanted to touch on, Candy,
Look,
before
I
we
was
go?
gonna quick just since you have a NASCAR shirt on, I wanted to
Sure.
quick I wanted to quick talk about Jamie Chadwick. She
Oh,
became the
yes.
third woman to win an Indy NXT race and the first to accomplish the feat on a road course when she led all 20 laps on Sunday at Road America. So the Indy NXT is the final step on the ladder system of open wheel racing for drivers working their way up to the IndyCar series. She's
Wow.
26 years old. And to win like that, that's just crazy. I mean, she led the whole she won, she beat her Andretti global teammate Lewis Foster by 0.823 seconds
Wow.
on a 14 turn, 4.14-mile road course.
That's really cool. Really cool.
That is cool.
Congratulations to her. So she'll
Yeah.
be moving up. She'll be moving up to the big circuit probably soon.
Yes. Probably sooner rather than yep, later.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you all so much for watching Chicks and Salsa, and we will be back next week, Tuesday, at the same time. Thank y'all for watching.
Thank you.